Captain Amanda Pierce walked into the large meeting hall where the Galactic Council waited. Her boots made quiet sounds on the metal floor. She wore a simple military uniform, dark blue with silver buttons. There was nothing special about it, nothing that glowed or hummed with power, just cloth and thread. Around the curved table sat representatives from 12 different alien species. Each one wore armor that made them look like walking tanks. The Vraxians had suits covered in glowing blue lines that could stop plasma fire. The Keltharan wore black armor that could let them walk through walls. Even the peaceful Nomari, who hated violence, had developed protective suits with energy shields that sparkled like soap bubbles. Amanda stood in the center of the room and felt their eyes on her. Some looked at her with pity. Others with confusion. A few with something that looked like contempt. The war against the Kreth Dominion had been going on for 3 years. Every species had lost soldiers and ships. Every species except the humans, because the humans had barely been allowed to fight. They were always put in the back, doing support work, carrying supplies, fixing equipment. Never on the front lines. Commander Zelthor stood up from his seat. He was a Vraxian, tall and broad, his armor making him look even bigger. When he spoke, his voice echoed through the hall. Captain Pierce, we have called you here to discuss the assault on Station Meridian. Amanda nodded. She had studied the reports for weeks. Station Meridian was a fortress deep in enemy territory. It controlled 3 star systems and housed 50,000 Kreth warriors. Taking it would cripple the Kreth war effort. Losing the assault would cost the Alliance everything. We have assembled our finest warriors, Zelthor continued. Every species will send their armored divisions. Every species except yours. The words hung in the air like a challenge. Why? Amanda asked. Her voice was calm but firm. Look at yourself, Zelthor said, gesturing toward her. You wear no armor. Your people have no protective technology. The Kreth warriors are 8 feet tall and covered in biomechanical suits that make them nearly impossible to kill. One of them could tear you apart with their bare hands. We cannot send your people into that kind of battle. Amanda felt anger rise in her chest, but kept it off her face. My people are trained soldiers. We have fought in every kind of terrain, every kind of condition. On your own world, perhaps, said a Keltaran delegate, her voice soft but cutting. But this is different. The Kreth are not like your human enemies. They are stronger, faster, and better equipped. Without armor, you would be slaughtered in minutes. We can adapt, Amanda said. Adapt to what? Plasma bolts that can melt steel? Gravity weapons that can crush bones? Sonic cannons that can rupture organs? Zelthor shook his head. Your bravery is admirable, Captain, but bravery alone will not keep you alive. The Council voted quickly. Humans would be assigned to medical units, communications, and logistics. The real fighting would be done by those who could survive it. Amanda left the meeting hall with her jaw clenched tight. She walked through the corridors of the Alliance ship, past groups of armored soldiers from a dozen different worlds. They all looked at her the same way, like she was fragile, like she was weak. She found Jake Morrison waiting for her outside her quarters. He had been her second in command for 8 years. They had served together in conflicts across human space. He was a good soldier and a better friend. They said no, Jake said. It was not a question. They said no, Amanda confirmed. What do we do? Amanda looked at him for a long moment. Then she smiled, but it was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who had made a decision. We proved them wrong. That night, Amanda called a meeting of her own. 30 volunteers gathered in the cargo bay of their transport ship, the Valiant. They were Marines, pilots, engineers, and medics, all human, all without armor, all willing to risk everything. Amanda stood on a supply crate so everyone could see her. The cargo bay was cold and smelled like oil and metal. Overhead lights cast shadows across the faces of her crew. "The Council thinks we are too weak to fight," she said. "They think that without armor we have no chance. They are going to attack Station Meridian with 12 species and thousands of armored soldiers. They expect a long battle with heavy losses." She paused and looked at each face in the crowd. "But they are wrong about us. They have always been wrong about us. Humans have survived ice ages and diseases that killed millions. We have fought wars on every continent of our world. We have climbed the highest mountains and crossed the deepest oceans. We did not do these things because we were the strongest or the fastest. We did them because we refused to give up." Jake stepped forward. "What are you suggesting, Captain?" "I am suggesting we hit Station Meridian before the main assault. Just us. No armor. No support. We go in fast and quiet and we take down their defenses from the inside." There was silence in the cargo bay. Then a woman named Lisa Grant spoke up. She was their best pilot, someone who could fly through asteroid fields blindfolded. "That is suicide," Lisa said. "Maybe," Amanda admitted. "But maybe not. The Kreth have designed their defenses to stop armored assaults. Energy shields, gravity wells, automated turrets. All of it is calibrated to detect and destroy heavy combat suits. But what if we do not wear armor? What if we are too small and too light for their sensors?" Kyle Patterson, their demolitions expert, grinned. "We would be ghosts." "Exactly," Amanda said. "We go in through maintenance tunnels that armored troops cannot fit through. We move through spaces too tight for their warriors. We hit targets they think are protected. And by the time they realize what is happening, we will have opened the door for the main assault." "How many of us will die?" asked Nina Brooks, the team medic. Amanda did not lie to them. "I do not know. Maybe all of us. But if we succeed, we will save thousands of lives, and we will show every species in this alliance that humans do not need armor to be dangerous." The crew looked at each other. There were quiet conversations, worried glances, nervous shifting of feet. Then, one by one, they nodded. "I am in," Jake said. "Me too," said Lisa. "Count me in," Kyle added. Nina sighed. "Someone has to patch you idiots up when you get hurt. I am in." Within 5 minutes, all 30 had agreed. Amanda felt something loosen in her chest. Pride, maybe, or hope. "We leave in 2 days," she said. "Get your gear ready. Light weapons, demolition charges, cutting tools, nothing heavy. We need to move fast." As the crew dispersed to prepare, Jake stayed behind. "The Council is going to be furious when they find out," he said. "Let them be furious," Amanda replied. "By the time they notice we are gone, we will already be inside the station." "And if we fail?" Amanda looked out at the stars through the cargo bay window. Somewhere out there was Station Meridian, waiting like a predator. "Then we fail," she said quietly. "But at least we will have tried. At least we will have shown them that humans fight with everything we have, even when we have nothing left." Jake nodded slowly. "They said you could not win without armor." "I know," Amanda said, "but they forgot something important." "What is that?" She turned to face him, and her eyes were hard as steel. "They forgot that humans have been fighting and winning for thousands of years, and we never had armor before." The Valiant pulled away from the Allied fleet 3 days before the planned attack. The ship was small and fast, designed for quick transport rather than combat. Lisa Grant sat in the pilot's seat, her hands steady on the controls as she guided them away from the massive warships that surrounded Station Meridian. On the main screen, Amanda watched the distance numbers climb. 1,000 kilometers, 5,000, 10,000. Soon they would be outside the fleet's sensor range, and then they would be on their own. "We have a message coming in," Jake said from the communications station. "It is from Admiral Ben Curtis." Amanda had expected this. Curtis was the commander of Earth's defense fleet, and he would not be happy about what she was doing. "Put it through." The Admiral's face appeared on the screen. He looked tired and angry. "Pierce, what the hell do you think you are doing?" "Following orders, sir. You told me to make a difference in this war." "I did not tell you to commit suicide. Get back to the fleet right now." "Respectfully, sir, I cannot do that. We are already committed." Curtis ran a hand over his face. "Do you have any idea what will happen if this goes wrong? The Council will blame humanity. They will say we are reckless and undisciplined. They might kick us out of the Alliance entirely." "And if it goes right?" Amanda asked. "If it goes right, you will still probably be dead. Station Meridian is not some minor outpost. It is the heart of Kreth military power in this sector. 50,000 warriors, Captain. 50,000. Then we better make sure we hit them before they know what is happening." Curtis stared at her for a long moment. Then he sighed. "You are not going to turn back, are you?" "No, sir." "Fine. But if you survive this, I am going to have you court-martialed for disobeying orders." "I understand, sir." "And Pierce, good luck. Show those armored bastards what humans can do." The transmission ended. Amanda sat back in her chair and took a deep breath. There was no turning back now. For the next 2 days, the crew of the Valiant studied everything they could about Station Meridian. They pored over blueprints stolen by intelligence operatives. They watched videos of Kreth warriors in combat. They memorized patrol routes and guard rotations. The station was massive, a structure that combined living quarters, weapons platforms, and manufacturing facilities all in one. It could house armies and build warships at the same time. The Kreth had built it over 50 years, layer by layer, until it became a fortress that everyone thought could never be taken. But it had weaknesses. Every structure did. Kyle Patterson found the first one. He was looking at the maintenance tunnel schematics when he noticed something odd. "Captain, come look at this." Amanda walked over to his workstation. On the screen was a network of tunnels that ran through the outer hull of the station. They were small, barely wide enough for a person to crawl through. "What are they?" she asked. "Old maintenance access tunnels. The Kreth built them when they first constructed the station, back when they did not have remote repair drones. Workers would crawl through these tunnels to fix things from the inside." "Are they still in use?" "According to this, no. The Kreth sealed most of them off decades ago, but look here." Kyle pointed to a section of the map. "This tunnel network was never sealed. It is still open, connecting to the interior of the station." Amanda felt her heart beat faster. "Can we fit through them? In armor? No way. But without armor? In light combat gear? Yeah, we can make it." Jake leaned over to look at the screen. "Even if we get inside, we still have to deal with 50,000 Kreth warriors." "We do not have to fight all of them," Amanda said. "We just have to create enough chaos that they cannot organize a defense when the main fleet arrives." She pulled up a 3-dimensional map of the station on the main display. "Here is what we do. We split into 3 teams. Kyle, you take one team and hit the power generators here. If we can cause blackouts, the Kreth will be blind." "Got it," Kyle said. "Rick, you take another team to the communications hub here. Cut them off from the rest of the Dominion. Make sure they cannot call for reinforcements." Rick Nelson, a quiet man who specialized in electronic warfare, nodded. "We can do that. Jake and I will take the 3rd team to the command center. If we can capture or kill the station commander, the rest will fall apart." "And what about extraction?" Nina asked. "How do we get out?" Amanda paused. She had thought about this question many times over the past few days. The truth was, she did not have a good answer. "We hold our positions until the Allied fleet arrives. Once they breach the station, we link up with them and get out. And if the fleet does not arrive in time, then we keep fighting until we cannot fight anymore." The cargo bay was quiet. Everyone knew what that meant. This was a one-way trip unless everything went perfectly. "Any questions?" Amanda asked. No one spoke. "Good. Get some rest. We drop in 8 hours." As the crew dispersed, Amanda stayed in the cargo bay, looking at the map of Station Meridian. She traced the route they would take with her finger, memorizing every turn and junction. She thought about the people she was leading into danger, 30 good soldiers who trusted her enough to follow her into hell. Lisa found her an hour later, still staring at the map. "You should sleep," Lisa said. "I will sleep when this is over. You know, when I signed up for this, I thought it was crazy. I still think it is crazy." "Then why did you agree?" Lisa smiled. "Because crazy is kind of our specialty, is it not? Humans have been doing crazy things since we climbed down from the trees. We sailed across oceans in wooden boats. We flew to the moon in tin cans. We built cities in deserts and jungles and frozen wastelands. Crazy is what we do best." Amanda laughed quietly. "I guess you are right. Besides," Lisa added, "someone has to show these aliens that armor is not everything. Might as well be us." 8 hours later, the Valiant reached the edge of Kreth space. Lisa guided the ship through asteroid fields and debris clouds, avoiding patrol routes. The station appeared on their sensors, a massive dark shape against the stars. "There it is," Jake said quietly. Station Meridian looked like a weapon. It was all sharp angles and heavy armor plating, covered in gun turrets and missile pods. Lights glowed in windows scattered across its surface. Each light represented rooms full of Kreth warriors, all of them believing they were safe behind their impenetrable defenses. "Taking us in closer," Lisa said. "Cutting all unnecessary power. We need to stay invisible." The ship went dark and silent. Only essential systems stayed online. They drifted toward the station like a piece of space debris, slow and quiet. "There," Kyle said, pointing at the screen. "The maintenance tunnel entrance. I see it." It was just a small hatch on the side of the station, barely visible among the armor plates. To the Kreth, it was probably just another forgotten part of their fortress. To Amanda and her team, it was their way in. The Valiant stopped 100 meters from the hatch. In the cargo bay, the 30 soldiers put on their gear. Light combat suits that would not trigger sensors. Conventional firearms that were simple and reliable. Plasma cutters for close work. Explosives for the big targets. No armor, no shields, no enhancement technology. Just humans with the tools they needed to do the job. Amanda checked her weapon one last time, then looked at her team. "This is it. Once we go through that hatch, there is no communication with the outside. We will be completely on our own. Every species in the galaxy thinks we cannot do this. Let us prove them wrong." One by one, they left the Valiant and drifted across empty space toward the hatch. The vacuum was silent and cold. Amanda could see her breath fogging her helmet visor. She could hear her own heartbeat loud in her ears. The hatch was old and rusted. Kyle worked on the lock with a plasma cutter while the others floated nearby, watching for any sign of detection. Minutes passed like hours. Then the hatch opened with a soft hiss of escaping air. They slipped inside the maintenance tunnel one by one. The tunnel was dark and narrow, barely wide enough to crawl through. Amanda pulled herself forward hand over hand, feeling the metal walls press close around her. Behind her, she could hear the others moving. 30 people in a tunnel meant for one, but they made it work. They had trained for tight spaces and difficult conditions. After what felt like forever, they reached an access panel. Kyle cut through it carefully, and they emerged into a dimly lit corridor deep inside Station Meridian. Amanda looked around. The corridor was empty. No guards, no cameras. The Kreth had never imagined anyone could get this far inside their fortress. That was their mistake. Amanda activated her communications device. It had a short range, enough to talk to her team, but not enough to be detected by station sensors. "All teams, move to your objectives. Stay quiet as long as possible. When the alarm goes off, move fast and hit hard. Good luck." The three teams split up and disappeared into the shadows of Station Meridian. The battle had begun. The corridors of Station Meridian were built for giants. The ceilings rose 15 feet high. The doorways were wide enough to fit 3 humans standing side by side. Everything about this place was designed to make the Kreth feel powerful and dominant. Amanda moved through the shadows with Jake and 8 others behind her. They wore dark combat suits that helped them blend into the dim lighting. Their boots were soft-soled, making almost no sound on the metal floors. They looked like ghosts drifting through the station. The Kreth were not expecting intruders. Why would they be? Station Meridian had never been breached. Its defenses were considered perfect. Energy shields protected it from outside attacks. Automated weapon systems covered every approach. Thousands of warriors stood ready to repel any assault. But all of those defenses were designed to stop enemies coming from outside. No one had planned for enemies already inside. Troy Allen, their technology specialist, worked as they moved. He carried a small device that could hack into the station's security systems. Every camera they passed, he disabled. Every motion sensor he fooled with false readings. The Kreth surveillance network saw empty corridors where humans crept forward. "Motion sensors ahead," Troy whispered. "Give me 30 seconds." The team stopped and waited. Troy's fingers danced across his device. Lines of code scrolled past on the small screen. Then he nodded. "Done! The sensors think we are just air currents." They moved forward again. The command center was 3 levels up and 2 sections over. They would have to pass through dozens of corridors and climb several access shafts. Every step brought them deeper into enemy territory. Amanda thought about the other teams as she walked. Kyle would be approaching the power generators by now. Rick should be getting close to the communications hub. She hoped they were all being as quiet and careful as her own team. They reached the first access shaft and looked up. It was a vertical tunnel with rungs built into the wall. At the top, they could see a closed hatch. "I will go first," Amanda said. "Jake, bring up the rear." She started climbing. Her muscles burned from the effort. The station's gravity was slightly higher than Earth normal, making everything harder. But humans had trained in high gravity before. They knew how to push through the discomfort. At the top of the shaft, Amanda pressed her ear against the hatch and listened. She could hear nothing on the other side. She opened it slowly, just a crack, and peered through. The corridor beyond was empty. She climbed out and helped the others up. They were on level 2 now, 1 more level to go. But as they moved forward, Amanda heard something that made her freeze. Footsteps. Heavy footsteps. Coming their way. "Contact," she whispered into her communicator. "Find cover." The team scattered. Some ducked into side passages. Others pressed themselves flat against the walls in shadowed alcoves. Amanda and Jake hid behind a support pillar. 4 Kreth warriors came around the corner. They were massive, 8 feet tall and covered in biomechanical armor that hummed with power. Their helmets had glowing red visors. They carried weapons that could cut through steel, but they were not paying attention. They were talking to each other in their harsh, guttural language. They thought they were safe inside their fortress. The warriors walked past Amanda's hiding spot, so close she could have reached out and touched them. She held her breath and did not move. The Kreth continued down the corridor and disappeared around another corner. Amanda waited a full minute before moving again. "All clear. Keep going." They reached the second access shaft without any more encounters. This one led directly to the command center level. But when Troy checked his device, his expression changed. "Captain, we have a problem." "What kind of problem?" "There are guards at the top of this shaft, at least 6 of them." Amanda thought quickly. They could not avoid the guards. The command center was too important to their mission, but fighting 6 armored Kreth warriors in a confined space would be suicide, unless they were smart about it. "Can you trigger a false alarm somewhere else on this level?" Amanda asked. Troy nodded. "Yeah, I can make it look like there is a hull breach in Section 7. That should draw them away." "Do it." Troy worked his device. A few seconds later, alarms started blaring somewhere in the distance. Amanda heard shouting from above, then the sound of running footsteps moving away. "Now!" she said. They climbed the shaft as fast as they could. When Amanda reached the top, she saw the corridor was empty. The guards had all rushed toward the false alarm. "We do not have much time," Jake said. "They will figure out it is fake in a few minutes." The team ran through the corridors, no longer trying to be quiet. Speed was more important now. They turned corners and passed through doors, getting closer to the command center with every step. Then they ran into a patrol. It happened so fast there was no time to hide. Amanda came around a corner and found herself face to face with two Kreth warriors. For a moment, everyone just stared at each other in shock. The Kreth recovered first. One of them reached for his weapon, while the other started to shout an alarm. But Jake was faster. He raised his plasma cutter and fired, aiming for the joint where the warrior's armor connected at the neck. The beam cut through and the warrior fell. The second warrior got his weapon up, but Amanda was already moving. She threw herself to the side as plasma bolts scorched the air where she had been standing. She rolled and came up behind the warrior, planting an explosive charge on the power core of his armor. "Down!" she shouted. Her team hit the floor. The charge detonated and the warrior's armor exploded from the inside. The corridor filled with smoke and the smell of burned metal. Alarms started blaring throughout the station. Red lights flashed on the walls. Somewhere in the distance, Amanda could hear more footsteps running toward them. "So much for stealth," Jake said, reloading his weapon. "We knew it would not last forever," Amanda replied. "Everyone move fast. Get to the command center before they seal it off." They ran through the corridors as the station came alive around them. Doors started closing automatically. Security barriers began dropping from the ceiling, but the humans were small and fast, diving under barriers and squeezing through gaps that the heavily armored Kreth could never fit through. Behind them, a full patrol of Kreth warriors gave chase. Their armor made loud, clanking sounds as they ran. They fired their weapons wildly, plasma bolts hitting walls and ceiling. But the humans were faster. They knew how to use the environment to their advantage. When the corridor narrowed, they could slip through easily while the Kreth had to slow down. When they reached a stairwell, they could jump down entire flights while the Kreth had to take it one step at a time. Two of Amanda's team did not make it. Dan Wright took a plasma bolt to the back as they ran. He went down without a sound. Maria Santos stopped to help him and was cut down a second later. Amanda wanted to go back for them. Every instinct screamed at her to help her people. But she knew they were already gone, and stopping would mean everyone else died too. "Keep moving!" she shouted. They reached the command center entrance. It was a massive, reinforced door already starting to close. Kyle planted explosives along the seam while the others provided covering fire at the Kreth warriors pursuing them. 30 seconds to breach," Kyle called out. "We do not have 30 seconds, Jake shouted back. Amanda could see more Kreth coming from both directions. They were about to be surrounded. She fired her weapon until it overheated, then switched to her backup. 20 seconds. The Kreth were getting closer. Amanda could see the red glow of their visors through the smoke. She grabbed a grenade from her belt and threw it down the corridor. The explosion bought them a few more seconds. 10 seconds! Brace yourselves! Kyle shouted. The charges detonated and the door blew inward. The team rushed through the opening into the command center beyond. Inside, a dozen Kreth officers stood frozen in shock. These were not warriors. They were commanders and strategists, protected by the station's defenses, never expecting to see combat directly. That shock lasted exactly 3 seconds. Then everything became chaos. The Kreth officers reached for weapons. Amanda's team opened fire. The command center filled with the sound of gunfire and plasma discharges. Bodies fell on both sides. Amanda saw a Kreth officer raise a weapon toward Kyle. She shot the officer before he could fire. Jake took down 2 more who were trying to activate a security lockdown. Nina dragged a wounded teammate to cover while firing her weapon with her free hand. It was brutal and fast and terrifying. No tactics, no strategy, just pure survival. The humans fought with everything they had, moving constantly, using the confusion to their advantage. When it was over, all 12 Kreth officers were dead. 3 more of Amanda's team had fallen. Troy Allen lay on the floor, his chest torn open by plasma fire. He looked up at Amanda with fading eyes. "Did we do it?" he asked. "Yeah, Troy, we did it." He smiled and then stopped moving. Amanda wanted to cry. She wanted to scream. But there was no time. She could hear more Kreth coming, hundreds of them converging on the command center. "Jake, seal that door. Kyle, get on those controls. We need to shut down the station's defenses now." Kyle ran to the main console and started working. His fingers flew across the controls as he navigated through Kreth's security systems. "Shields are down," he called out. "Weapons platforms are offline. I am opening all the docking bays." Amanda activated her long-range communicator, the one she had not used until now, because it would give away their position. But their position did not matter anymore. They had done what they came to do. "Allied Fleet, this is Captain Amanda Pierce. Station Meridian's defenses are down. The fortress is yours." There was a moment of silence. Then Commander Zelthor's voice came through, filled with disbelief. "Pierce, how is this possible?" "No time to explain. We have opened the front door. You just have to walk through it." "We are on our way. Hold your position." Amanda looked around the command center. 5 of her team remained standing. They were wounded and exhausted, surrounded by dead enemies and dead friends. Outside the sealed door, she could hear the Kreth trying to break through. It would not take them long. "Reload your weapons," she said quietly. "This is going to get worse before it gets better." The Allied fleet arrived to find Station Meridian completely vulnerable. Ships that should have been blown apart by defense platforms drifted toward the fortress without a single shot fired at them. Docking bays that should have been sealed tight stood open like welcoming arms. Commander Zelthor stood on the bridge of his flagship, staring at the readings in disbelief. His armor hummed around him, ready for a battle that apparently was not going to happen. "This must be a trap," he said to his officers. "The humans could not have done this alone." But the sensors told the truth. The shields were down, the weapons were offline, and internal communications were showing chaos throughout the station. Kreth warriors were running in every direction, receiving contradictory orders, fighting enemies they could not track or corner. "It is not a trap," his tactical officer said quietly. "The humans actually did it." Throughout Station Meridian, the nightmare continued for the Kreth defenders. Small groups of unarmored humans appeared and disappeared like ghosts. They struck from unexpected places and vanished before reinforcements could arrive. Kyle's team had done more than just disable the power generators. They had taken control of the environmental systems. Lights flickered on and off throughout the station. Gravity shifted randomly, sending warriors stumbling and falling. Temperature controls went haywire, making some sections freezing cold and others burning hot. The Kreth, who had trained to fight in perfect conditions with perfect information, found themselves completely disoriented. They fired at shadows. They chased targets that disappeared around corners. They activated their armor's targeting systems only to find no valid targets to lock onto. In one corridor, a squad of Kreth warriors heard footsteps behind them and spun around with weapons raised. But when they looked, the corridor was empty. Then the ceiling panel above them opened and humans dropped down, firing as they fell. Before the Kreth could react, the humans had rolled away and disappeared into the ventilation system. In another section, warriors chased what they thought were fleeing enemies, only to run straight into a trap. Explosive charges detonated around them, taking down an entire platoon. Rick's team had seized the communications hub and turned it into a weapon. They used the Kreth's own system against them, sending false orders that directed forces away from key locations. Warriors were told to evacuate sections that were perfectly safe. Others were ordered to defend positions that did not need defending. Commanders tried to organize a response, but found their orders being contradicted by other messages. Paranoia spread through the Kreth ranks. They started seeing enemies everywhere. Some warriors, unable to tell friend from foe in the chaos, began firing on each other. Officers shouted conflicting commands. The entire military structure of Station Meridian began to collapse from the inside, and through it all, the humans kept moving. They knew they were outnumbered 1,000 to 1. They knew that in a straight fight, they would lose, so they did not fight straight. They fought dirty and smart and unpredictable. When the Vraxian shock troops finally entered the station, they found corridors filled with confused and demoralized Kreth warriors. The feared defenders of Station Meridian, the warriors everyone thought were unbeatable, were already defeated. Commander Zelthor led his forces toward the command center. They moved through the station expecting heavy resistance, but the Kreth they encountered barely fought back. Some tried to surrender. Others just ran. "What happened here?" one of Zelthor's officers asked. "The humans happened," Zelthor replied. When they reached the command center, they found the door had been blown open. Inside, the room was filled with bodies. Kreth officers lay dead at their stations, and sitting in the commander's chair, exhausted but alive, was Captain Amanda Pierce. Her uniform was torn and covered in blood. Her face had burns and cuts. One arm hung at an odd angle, probably broken, but her eyes were clear and fierce. Around her stood 5 other humans, all in similar condition. They looked like they had fought through hell and barely made it out. Zelthor stared at them for a long moment. Then he removed his helmet and bowed his head. "Captain Pierce, I was wrong about you and your people. I apologize." Amanda tried to stand, but her legs gave out. Jake caught her and helped her back into the chair. "No need to apologize," she said, her voice hoarse. "You just did not understand how humans fight." "How do humans fight?" Amanda gestured at the holographic display showing the station's status. "Every other species in this alliance built armor to make themselves stronger and tougher. You designed your tactics around what your armor could do. Direct assaults, overwhelming firepower, brute force." She paused to catch her breath. "But humans never had that luxury. We have always been the weaker species on our planet. We are not as strong as bears. We are not as fast as big cats. We are not as tough as elephants, so we learn to survive by being smarter and more adaptable. Your armor protects you, but it also limits you," Jake added. "It makes you predictable. You can only go where your armor lets you go. You can only fight the way your armor lets you fight." "We went places you could not go," Amanda said. "We fought in ways you did not expect, and we used your own systems against you." Zelthor looked at the human soldiers with new respect. They were small and fragile compared to his Vraxian warriors, but they had done what no armored force could have done. "How many did you lose?" he asked. Amanda's expression darkened. 12. Almost half our team." "I am sorry. So am I." The battle for Station Meridian continued for 6 more hours as Allied forces cleared out the remaining Kreth. But the outcome had been decided in the first hour, when 30 unarmored humans proved that technology was not everything. In the medical bay, Nina worked to save the survivors. She had injuries of her own, but refused treatment until everyone else had been helped. Her hands were steady as she treated burns, set broken bones, and stopped bleeding. "You should rest," one of the Nomari medics told her. "I will rest when my people are stable," Nina replied. Lisa Grant arrived with the Valiant, docking it in one of the captured bays. She found Amanda in the medical bay, her arm in a sling and bandages covering half her face. "You look terrible," Lisa said. "I feel worse," Amanda admitted. But we did it. Yeah, we did. Lisa sat down beside her. You know what the best part is? Every species in the Alliance is talking about what we did. The Keltharan want to learn our tactics. The Nomari are asking about our training methods. Even the Vraxians are impressed. It cost us 12 good people. I know. But they did not die for nothing. They changed how everyone sees humanity. Word of what happened at Station Meridian spread through the Allied fleet like fire. The species that had dismissed humans as too weak and too primitive now looked at them with new eyes. The unarmored humans had accomplished what thousands of armored warriors could not. The Kreth Dominion received reports of the station's fall with horror. Their commanders could not understand how it happened. The reports made no sense. Small groups of unarmored attackers had infiltrated the fortress and brought down its defenses from the inside. It was impossible, but it had happened, and if it could happen at Station Meridian, it could happen anywhere. Fear spread through Kreth territory. Every fortress commander began looking at their own defenses with suspicion. Every sealed tunnel and forgotten maintenance shaft became a potential entry point for human infiltrators. The Kreth, who had built their military doctrine on armored superiority, suddenly realized that armor could be a weakness. Within 2 weeks, Kreth forces began pulling back from their forward positions. They recalled ships and consolidated their defenses, but the damage was already done. Their confidence was shattered. 6 weeks after the fall of Station Meridian, the Kreth Dominion requested peace negotiations. They had lost their nerve and their will to fight. The war that everyone thought would last years ended in months, and it all changed because one woman and 29 others refused to accept what everyone said was impossible. Amanda Pierce sat in her quarters on the Valiant, looking at the list of names on her tablet. 12 names of people who would never go home. She had written letters to their families, trying to explain why their loved ones had died, trying to make their sacrifice mean something. Dan Wright had a wife and 2 children on Earth. Maria Santos had elderly parents who depended on her. Troy Allen had been planning to propose to his girlfriend when the war ended. Now, they were all gone. Jake knocked on her door. "The council wants to see you. They are giving you some kind of medal." "I do not want a medal." "I know. But you should go anyway. The others would want you to." Amanda put down her tablet and stood up. Her arm still hurt where it had been broken. Her burns were healing slowly, but the pain inside was worse than any physical injury. "All right, let us go." As she walked through the corridors of the Alliance ship, other soldiers stopped and saluted her. Vraxians, Keltharan, Nomari, even species she had never met before. They all showed her respect. She had proven something important. She had shown that courage and determination could overcome any disadvantage. She had demonstrated that humans did not need armor to be dangerous. But the cost of that proof was 12 lives. And Amanda would carry that weight for the rest of her days. 3 months after the Battle of Station Meridian, Captain Amanda Pierce stood before the Galactic Council once more, but this time everything was different. The council members rose from their seats as she entered. The same aliens who had dismissed her before now looked at her with respect and admiration. Commander Zelthor bowed his head. Even the Keltharan delegate, who had called humans too fragile to fight, stood in recognition. The war was over. The Kreth Dominion had signed a peace treaty 8 weeks after their fortress fell. They had lost their will to fight after Station Meridian. The Alliance had won, and everyone knew it was because of what humans had done. But Amanda felt no joy. She thought about the 12 names carved into stone at the memorial site. 12 people who had trusted her and followed her into death. "Captain Pierce," the council speaker began, "we have called you here to recognize your extraordinary achievement. You and your team accomplished what no one thought possible. You have changed the course of this war and brought peace to 100 worlds." The speaker held up a medal, a silver star that represented the highest honor the Alliance could give. We wish to present you with the Star of Valor, given to those who show exceptional courage in the face of overwhelming danger. Amanda looked at the medal but did not reach for it. I cannot accept that. There was silence in the chamber. Why not? The speaker asked. Because 12 of my people died to win that battle. They deserve any honor more than I do. Dan Wright, Maria Santos, Troy Allen, and 9 others. They should be here, not me. They will be honored as well, the speaker assured her. But you led them. You made the plan. You had the courage to challenge everyone who said it could not be done. Amanda shook her head. I just did what needed to be done. That is all. Zelthor stepped forward. Captain, may I speak? The council speaker nodded. Before Station Meridian, I thought humans were brave but foolish, Zelthor said. I thought your lack of armor made you weak. I was wrong. You showed us that true strength does not come from technology or equipment. It comes from here. He touched his chest. From the heart, from the will to never surrender. You have inspired all of us, added the Keltheran delegate. We have begun training our own forces in human tactics. We are learning to fight without relying only on our armor. The Nomari have developed new combat doctrines based on your methods, another delegate said. Even in defeat, the Kreth have acknowledged that you changed warfare forever. Amanda listened to their words but felt empty inside. She had not set out to inspire anyone. She had just wanted to prove that humans could fight alongside other species as equals. After the ceremony ended, Amanda requested a private meeting with the council. They gathered in a smaller room, away from the cameras and crowds. I have a request, Amanda said. Name it, the speaker replied. After what you have done, we will grant almost anything. I want to train a new generation of warriors, humans and aliens together. I want to teach them that armor is just a tool, not a crutch. I want them to learn how to fight with everything they have, even when they have nothing left. The council members looked at each other. You are refusing the position of Supreme Commander of Allied Forces? Zelthor asked. Yes, I am not a politician or a general. I am a soldier. Let me do what I do best. The speaker nodded slowly. Very well. You will have full authority to create this training program. Choose your instructors. Design your curriculum. We will provide whatever resources you need. Thank you. 6 weeks later, Amanda stood in front of her first class of recruits. There were 50 of them, representing 12 different species. Some were young and eager. Others were veterans who wanted to learn new ways to fight. Among them were Jake Morrison, Lisa Grant, Nina Brooks, and Kyle Patterson. The survivors of Station Meridian had all volunteered to help teach. Welcome, Amanda said to the assembled recruits. You are here because you want to learn how to be more than your armor. You want to be warriors who can adapt to any situation and overcome any challenge. She walked among them, looking each one in the eye. I am going to teach you tactics that will make you uncomfortable. You will train without armor even though it feels wrong. You will learn to fight in ways your species never fought before. Some of you will quit. That is fine. This is not for everyone. A young Vraxian raised his hand. Captain, why should we train without armor? My armor makes me 10 times stronger. And what happens when your armor is damaged? Amanda asked. What happens when the power fails or the systems malfunction? Are you helpless? Or are you still dangerous? The recruit had no answer. Armor is a tool, Amanda continued. An excellent tool when used properly. But if you depend on it completely, then you are only as good as your armor. I want you to be dangerous with or without it. She pulled up a holographic image of Station Meridian. My team and I took this fortress with no armor at all. We did it by being unpredictable, by adapting to our environment, and by using the enemy's assumptions against them. That is what I am going to teach you. The training was brutal. Amanda pushed her recruits harder than they had ever been pushed before. They crawled through tight spaces. They practiced fighting in zero gravity and high gravity. They learned to move silently and strike from unexpected angles. Some did quit, but most stayed and learned. They learned that being smaller could be an advantage. They learned that speed and intelligence could overcome brute strength. They learned to see their environment as a weapon. Word of Amanda's training program spread throughout the Alliance. More volunteers arrived. Other instructors asked to observe her methods. Within 6 months, she had trained over 200 warriors from 15 different species. The war was over. But everyone knew there would be other conflicts. And when those conflicts came, the galaxy would be ready with warriors who understood that true strength came from within. 1 year after Station Meridian, Amanda visited the memorial for the first time since it had been built. It stood on a peaceful world near the border of human space. 12 names were carved into black stone, along with the words, "They charged forward with nothing but their will." Amanda stood before the memorial with her hand on the stone. She could remember each face, each voice, each person who had trusted her. "I hope I made it worth it," she said quietly. "I hope what we started here makes a difference." Jake joined her at the memorial. He had stayed with her through everything, helping train the new recruits and keeping her grounded when the memories became too heavy. "You did make it worth it," he said. "Look at what you have built. Hundreds of warriors who fight smarter instead of just harder. Dozens of species working together in ways they never did before. You changed everything." "We changed everything," Amanda corrected. "All of us together." They stood in silence for a while, remembering their friends and teammates. A young human cadet approached nervously. She could not have been more than 20 years old, fresh from basic training. "Captain Pierce, I am sorry to bother you. I just wanted to say thank you. You showed us that we do not have to be the strongest or the best equipped. We just have to be determined." Amanda looked at the young woman and saw herself years ago. Eager, brave, and ready to prove herself. "What is your name?" Amanda asked. "Laura Hayes, ma'am." "Well, Laura Hayes, remember something important. Determination is good, but it is not enough by itself. You also need skill, intelligence, and the ability to work with others. And most importantly, you need to know when to be brave and when to be smart." "Yes, ma'am, I will remember." As the cadet walked away, Amanda felt something loosen in her chest. The weight she had been carrying was still there, but it felt a little lighter. "She reminds me of you," Jake said. "God help her," Amanda replied with a small smile. They left the memorial as the sun set behind them. Amanda knew she would return many times over the years. The memory of that battle would never leave her, but she had learned to carry it forward instead of letting it drag her down. The galaxy had changed because 30 humans refused to accept limitations. They had charged into battle without armor, relying only on their training, their courage, and each other. They had been told they could not win, but they had won anyway, and in doing so, they had proven something that would echo through history. Humans were not weak. Humans were not fragile. Humans were dangerous in a way that no armor could protect against. They were dangerous because they refused to give up, because they adapted to any situation, because when faced with impossible odds, they found a way forward. 5 years later, Amanda Pierce retired from active service. She had trained over 1,000 warriors and changed military doctrine across the entire Alliance. Her methods were taught at every academy. Her tactics were studied by every commander. But she never forgot the 12 who fell at Station Meridian. She visited the memorial every year on the anniversary of the battle. She told their stories to anyone who would listen. She made sure their sacrifice was never forgotten. On her last visit before leaving military service, she stood before the memorial with tears in her eyes. "We did it," she whispered. "We showed them what humans can do. We proved that will and determination can overcome any obstacle." The wind blew across the memorial, rustling the flowers that other visitors had left. The names carved in stone remained unchanged, eternal witnesses to courage and sacrifice. Amanda saluted the memorial one final time, then turned and walked away. She had a new life waiting for her, far from battlefields and war councils, but she would carry these names with her always. They had said she could not win without armor. She had charged forward with nothing but her will, and 30 others had charged with her. 12 had fallen, but their legacy lived on in every warrior who learned that true strength came from inside, not from the armor they wore. That was the legend of the unarmored. That was the story of Captain Amanda Pierce and her team. And that was why humanity would never be dismissed or underestimated again. They had proven that the most powerful weapon in the galaxy was not armor or technology or superior strength. It was the unbreakable will of a human who refused to surrender, and nothing in the universe could stand against that.